Okay.
Yeah, so we're live now. Um, but yeah, that's a great point. You want to say it again for the people who tune in again, like what you just said?
Sure. Uh, Looking at Julian Assange's situation over the past decade, I think most journalists, mainstream and independent alike, have been afraid to criticize him and or angry at him enough to not criticize him because he's a constant reminder to them of how often they fall down on the job.
What do you think, Misty? Hello, Misty.
I think she might have dropped off for a second.
Okay, I was just checking my volumes real quick. Yeah, she probably dropped because her connection was a little off.
Yeah.
Hello, Ashley. Hello, Mona. Shout out to you guys.
It's my girlfriend passing through in the background.
Hey, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
All right, let me add Misty. Yeah, do you have her number? Maybe you can tell her she can
Yeah.
like keep her if she keeps her camera on, the connection will be a lot stronger.
Okay. Um, just a sec.
Hello, Peter Ham. Peter Ham says, I'm a right wing libertarian, but I agree with you completely. Thank you. Yeah, welcome to everybody who's tuning in. Who, I picked up a lot of subscribers recently from the two videos that I made about the great unmasking of AOC and several people who call themselves lefty progressives who are choosing to attack Jimmy Dore as opposed to attack these politicians. Um, who need to stand up for Medicare for all. I mean, we're in the middle of a pandemic. People are suffering, and these people are. It seems like they care more about their careers. I went over how people's shadows that Jimmy Dore has talked about in his show. Um, when they see certain characteristics expressed in other people, that that is like characteristics of themselves that they try to repress, they lash out on those people.
Mhm.
So Jesse, what do you say about like the recent happenings of like people on the left, like people like Anna Kasparian who were like lashing out at Jimmy Dore? What are your thoughts about all this crazy stuff that's been happening this weekend?
Well, first of all, when it comes to Anna Kasparian, I wouldn't consider her of the left unless you're referring to this demented idea of the left that's really center right or even right, this sort of distorted version of the left. I think she's part of that. She's part of this sort of New Yorker intelligentsia crowd. And she writes for Jacobin magazine, which
Yep.
was essentially a French death cult that fetishized the guillotine. And I think she's probably the last one who should be lecturing anybody about human welfare. I don't, to me, she's a bona fide careerist. I don't think she's ever had anything intelligent or interesting to say. She strikes me as an Anne Applebaum sort of figure. And I think that when it comes to what Jimmy Dore has said about Medicare for all and what he's trying to push, sh I don't know what she believes, but I can tell you that she's definitely parroting an argument that her handlers are feeding her. And she doesn't have to worry about it because she has health care. Her kids have health care. Her family has
Mm-hmm.
health care. She's not, she's of a different class above you and me. And these aren't like real world worries to them, whereas you and I have to worry about this on a daily basis. And I think that her calling out Jimmy Dore as well is also just a way for her to build her brand, whatever that is.
Like
Coastal
what she
liberal.
was saying to him, like, he's like, oh, it's part of Jimmy's brand to attack AOC. But like you said, that's what she's doing. She's trying to build up her own brand. She's trying to call out people who make it seem like they're appealing to right wingers because Jimmy Dore attacks these Democrats, but he does so because this is something that's not obvious to people on the left. He's not doing it because he's a right winger, because he wants people to vote for the Republican Party. People
Right.
in the Republican Party are just as corrupt as the Democrats. And we
Right.
shouldn't be voting for either of those two. And he's been saying that. He's not telling people to vote for the Republicans. But
He's not telling people to vote for anybody. He's
yep.
saying, let's put pressure on Pelosi, who's basically like the matriarch of Congress, right? She's been there for how long now? She doesn't even look like she's alive anymore. And
Sad truth.
and he's saying, let's put pressure. Why don't these so-called progressives like AOC put pressure on her and say, we're not going to reaffirm you as Speaker of the House unless you pass a Medicare for All bill. And I think that that's as much as you can work within the system to change it, so to speak. I think that's a totally legitimate and valid and realistic and not that difficult proposition that Jimmy Dore has put forward. And it's because people like AOC and Nancy Pelosi and the whole squad, they're careerists. They've been subsumed by the system that they campaigned on running against. And I think that's where it lies now. And watching a few Jimmy Dore episodes and seeing AOC's responses on Twitter to Jimmy Dore and also to the NFL player Justin Jackson,
Mm-hmm.
she wasn't even addressing what they were saying. I don't know where she was coming from. Maybe all the steam from her cooking dinner got to her head or something. But like, it was so childish the way she
Yeah.
was responding and what she was saying. And I don't. I mean, if you believe in human welfare to any extent, I don't understand how you can oppose what Jimmy Dore has been advocating for.
Yeah, well said. Yeah, it is a bunch of children. It seems like there's a bunch of children who are on the left. So everybody who is tuning in right now, I am joined by Jesse and Misty, both of which are from Facts on the Ground. They have a fantastic channel in which they interview several great journalists and authors and activists. So welcome. There's a lot of new people who just subscribe to my channel. Welcome. This is what I usually do for my live streams. I have people on and we try to discuss about the recent happenings in our politics, and we try to bring solutions. And we also try to give you guys therapy by ranting a little bit. So Misty and Jesse, you guys want to give you guys want to give like an introduction to everybody and give your thoughts on like what went on this weekend, like this great unmasking. Like if you're subscribed to this channel and you saw my two previous videos, then you guys know what I'm talking about. So go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Misty?
Well, I'm Misty Winston, a co-host of Facts on the Ground, and I would say this weekend's been really, I don't even know what the word is for it. It's, I mean, sideshow maybe. It's been a very interesting weekend. We'll say that. It's not like what is being asked of progressives is outlandish, radical, or it's like bare minimum requesting here. This is something. Honestly, to me, progressives shouldn't even be considering voting for Nancy Pelosi, like from jump. Like this shouldn't even be a conversation that we're having. Like the only conversation we should be having is, are we willing to leverage our vote to see if maybe we can get some things from her? Are we willing to make that deal with the devil? It should, do you know what I'm saying? Like progressives voting for Nancy Pelosi to be speaker again is absurd. It's cartoonish. I don't know what that is. So yeah, this is like bare minimum. It really is like bare minimum.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I think that AOC at this point, and to a lesser extent, the rest of the squad, they've betrayed themselves for the Obama-style disappointments that I actually was quite sure they were going to be when they came into office in 2019. And I've said this on numerous shows before, but the point never seems to quite stick. If you look at AOC's voting record, the first thing she voted for as a congresswoman was the continued funding and expansion of NATO. And this is somebody who had on her campaign page briefly a peace economy as part of her platform. And then that got mysteriously taken down. I'm working on a long form piece right now about all of this. I don't know where it's going to end up, but that's one of the things I found. And also looking at her recent campaign, she, for this cycle, took hundreds of thousands of dollars from corporations, including Amazon, Apple, AT&T, and people will argue against that and say, well, those could be individual employees donating that money, but where are they getting that money from? Their jobs. Amazon's paying them. AT&T's paying them. So it's essentially the corporation's money that's going into her coffers. And if you look at what she took in this cycle versus what she took in 2018, I haven't calculated the percentages yet, but the jump is insane. And also the jump in the amount of corporate and institutional and academic donors is quite remarkable. And this is all public information that's out there. If people care to look, it's not hard to find. And I think that really betrays who she is, who the rest of the squad is. Although I feel they're kind of like quite feeble compared to Ocasio-Cortez. She has more of a persona, a brand, an image to put out there, and has a fantastic way of saying nothing at all over 5 minutes.
For sure, yeah.
So yeah, I think, not to toot my own horn, and I know others picked up on this at the same time, but when she first came on the scene, so to speak, I was suspicious, and I listened to what she had to say and just got this intuition that she was going to be an Obama-style neoliberal disappointment. And I think that's what's been borne out. And I'm not going to say like I've been vindicated or I told you so, because again, other people picked up on this as well. But I think her true character, who she really is as both a person and a politician, is it's coming out as she's being taken farther into the machine, the system.
Yeah. And to anybody who's tuning in who still feels like they have to support like AOC, or like if you still watch like TYT, we're not telling you don't watch them or don't support them, because I feel like that would be counterintuitive to do. You know, it's like when a parent tells a child not to do something, sometimes they may act rebellious. What we will tell you though is to be conscious of what we're telling you and what their true intentions may be. So there's a lot of people to call out today, and I want to start out with.
Let's do them all.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Let's do them. So
name. Let's do it.
I have some tweets here that I want to pull up to show everybody. So we'll start with Anna Kasparian. Anna Kasparian was pretty loud on Twitter.
Good place to start.
Yeah, so I'm just going to read what she said, and then I'll start with Misty, and she's going to share her thoughts. So Anna Kasparian said, "It's one thing to debate the strategies lawmakers like AOC should take. My issue with Dore is that I don't believe he says anything in good faith. It's incredible to witness his rage-filled demands of some lawmakers while he refused to hold Tulsi accountable for a damn thing. Attacking AOC is more of his branding exercise than anything else. With that said, pressuring politicians to actually represent us is the right thing to do. I just question his intentions, and for good reason. even a broken clock, etc., etc. So, Misty, what do you make of this?
Okay, so first of all, when she says, okay, if I start with first of all, I may ramble or I may rant. That may happen.
Let's hear
So
it.
first of all, she really has a lot of nerve. Listen, when I watched DYT, which did watch, DYT for a little bit, not long, never really the main show, but I wanted to like Anna, I really did. But here's the thing: she talks about Jimmy Dore not acting in good faith, or that whatever. She could not be doing the whole accuse your opponent of what you yourself are doing. It's ridiculous. She does not ever say anything about Jimmy Dore or Tulsi Gabbard for that matter in good faith. Like, I'm not even a Tulsi Gabbard supporter. And her obsession with trashing Tulsi every time, like Tulsi could cure cancer on her way to save orphans from a house fire while adopting literally all the dogs in the world. And she would find something to bitch about. She would find something to complain about how Tulsi's, evil, crazy, a grifter, a right winger. It's her obsession is very bizarre. And, going after Jimmy on multiple occasions, straight up said, yes, I have a bias towards Tulsi. She was nice to me. I'm human. And, at the same time, she talks about a lot of the things that I've been talking about. He talks about
like
imperialism and war. Yeah, I mean, that made sense. And he always admitted his bias. Like, he never pretended to not have a bias. And so to me, that's okay. At least he was honest about where he stood. And then when she did endorse Joe Biden, he brought her back on, and he he didn't go super hard at her, but he went at her a little bit, and he, kind of tried to hold her to account for that. And, I'm sure that was tough for him to even deal with. Like, I'm sure he felt like he got screwed over all over again. But, it's just her. Oh, see, I knew I was going to rant, but yeah, this is somebody who's been pushing Russiagate for 4 years.
Yeah.
And, it's hard for me to even take her seriously. It really is.
Yeah, she's not one to talk. So she also went on to retweet like a thread that some random person put up of Jimmy Dore making a video where he found a doctored video of Joe Biden presenting somebody who the image was darkened, so it appeared like the guy was doing blackface, which it wouldn't be surprising considering Joe Biden's like past racism, like his history. And he wasn't the only one who presented that.
Well, let's play it out there. Joe Biden.
Who hasn't gotten something wrong?
It's just a small mistake, and he corrected it.
Russiagate. She pushed Russiagate.
Exactly. That's why she's not one to talk.
Elizabeth Warren was a progressive, and gaslit for her. Are you kidding me? And you're gonna go after Jimmy because he made a mistake on a video? Yeah, that sucked, but he took it down. This is what I'm talking about. She's so disingenuous. It's painful. Unbelievable.
Yeah. And let's just put it out there as a matter of historical fact. Joe Biden is a racist. There's no argument about that. You can argue against it if you want, but history, the facts are against you. And so you voted for him, you voted for racism, among many other terrible things.
And you saw how he's like still acting out aggressively with him when he was like on a panel with black activists. Yeah,
he was on. I watched this the other night. It was on one of Jimmy Dore's segments, and he was on a show. I forget the name of the show, but the host was a young black man, and who asked Biden a legitimate question. I forget exactly what the question was, but it was legitimate and very relevant to what's happening now. And Biden's response was, I'm paraphrasing, but it's pretty close. If you still have a question, mind you, he's saying this to the black host of the show. If you still have a question about whether you're going to vote for me or Trump, you're not really black, man.
Yeah. Yeah, when he was on the Breakfast Club.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, and I just thought that was just like...
That was amazing.
That was him like taking like his skin bag face off and just really showing his like bloody, murderous war criminal skull to us.
So, you guys, Have you guys been watching some of Nico's streams where he talks about like the shadow and spirituality? Like I talked about it in my most recent video, or the video in which I talk about like Anna and Ben Dixon, all these people lashing out at Jimmy right now, focusing their energy more on that than on actually getting Medicare for all passed. I mentioned the shadow, which is a characteristic that people have in themselves subconsciously that they try to repress, like characteristics that they find in themselves that they deny as part of them. And there's studies of this that have been done which show that the people who are the most homophobic are the ones that are found to be the most aroused by images of nudity of the same sex. And this is what Jimmy has also talked about in his show, of people who have the strongest Trump derangement syndrome have a characteristic that they see in Trump that they try to deny that's a part of themselves. So we were talking about how Anna has like some kind of branding to her that she's trying to push. And she was claiming that Jimmy Dore is pushing a branding. So what do you think is the branding that Anna Kasparian is trying to push?
I think
friendly imperialism, basically. I mean,
Yeah,
did you? I mean, I'm sure you guys saw the interview that she did with Madeleine Albright. That was Moderate Rebels just put out a great video exposing her on all of that and how it was. I mean, you guys need to watch that video. I don't know if everybody's seen it, but it's amazing. I mean, she was a paid gig and the interview that she gave to Madeleine Albright was disgusting. It was so bad. I mean, she. I'm so honored to be here interviewing you. And this is Madeleine Albright. I mean, that's gross. And,
First, why would you even want to interview Madeleine Albright?
it's because of who she was
what
like.
she's about. Like, what else does she have to share? She's like the female version of Henry Kissinger, just like lurking around still in this like old, demented, hideous-looking body, and I think it's fair to attack those people's images because they're horrible people. Kissinger and Albright alike. I mean, they were basically champions of genocide. So, but anyway, sorry. Go ahead, Misty.
No, I was just ranting again. It's what I do. But yeah, I mean, she is. I think I don't know if I joke and I think Jimmy has said this before. Maybe not Jimmy. I don't remember. It's like she's auditioning to be the next host of The View. Like that's, you know what I mean? Like it's I don't know.
Or an MSNBC contract or something.
Yes, I don't know. I don't know if that's. I don't know, maybe, but yeah, that's the vibe that I get from her. It's I don't know why she is the way she is and why I don't know. She reminds me of like the mean girl in high school who is just trying to make herself feel better. That's the impression that I get.
Yeah, let's go over that tweet that Moderate Rebels put out. I don't know if it was Max Blumenthal or Ben Norton who tweeted that out. I remember in the video, Ben Norton was the one that seemed the most angry about it, but Max Blumenthal was the one who was laying down the facts. They both do fantastic work. If you haven't subscribed to Moderate Rebels yet, you should definitely subscribe. It's a very informative channel. So they tweeted out and they tagged the Young Turks. They tagged Jacobin Magazine, which Anna Kasparian is a host of both of those. So it says, Anna Kasparian claims Jimmy Dore is a bad faith actor for criticizing Saint AOC, but apparently Anna had no problem doing propaganda for the Imperial NATO military alliance and Madeleine Albright, who defended the deaths of 500,000 Iraqi children. And then they went on to say, maybe it is no surprise Anna Kasparian thinks Jimmy Dore and other left-wing critics of Democratic Party leaders are acting in bad faith, considering she did this pro-NATO neoliberal propaganda for Francis end of history Fukuyama. So in that video, hang on a sec, let me bring the panel back. So I'm not going to play the video because it might slow the stream down. But I'm just going to paraphrase a little bit of what was discussed there. So in an episode from back in April of this year, Max Blumenthal and Ben Norton reported on their podcast called Moderate Rebels that Anna Kasparian She attended the Munich Security Conference, and that was earlier this year. I can't remember if it was February or January. And the Munich Security Conference is organized and put out by NATO. It's also funded by the German Foreign Ministry. It's also funded by other Western European governments. And other than governments, it's also funded by the arms industry, the big banks, the oil industry, McKinsey and Company, which is a company that Pete Buttigieg used to work for, that a lot of Bernie supporters were trashing. The kind of companies that people like Anna Kasparian is supposed to be fighting against, people like Cenk Uygur are supposed to be fighting against. And her job there was to interview several former foreign policy figures. Many of these people are war criminals. She most notoriously interviewed Madeleine Albright, which we just discussed. And she was just glowing and very excited when she said that it's an honor for her to be interviewing her. And then she went on to give her a very softball interview. She didn't even question her about those past comments that Madeleine Albright is notorious for. Madeleine Albright is also an architect for the U.S. bombing in Yugoslavia. And then she also gave a very softball interview to Francis Fukuyama. Fukuyama is an architect to the neoconservative movement. And in that interview, it was about how important it is to push for liberal democracies around the world. Now, doesn't that sound very imperialistic? And then,
but Jim Bourne's the bad faith actor.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then in another interview, so she interviewed several of these figures, and then she discussed with these foreign policy leaders how important it is to have NATO push for peace internationally. So I'm wondering if she is actually surrounding herself around real progressives. Why weren't these people trying to get her to? Why weren't they trying to talk her out of this? Or is she just this naive? What do you guys think?
Well, I think Anna Kasparian is an apparatchik of this national security state status quo that really came to the fore under Bill Clinton's presidency and was accelerated under Bush, especially after 9/11, when it was essentially no holds barred. We're going to torture people wherever we want. We're going to assassinate people wherever we want. And then Obama came in and took up that mantle and accelerated it. And for them, so if you look at John McCain's funeral, for example, when George Bush passed Michelle Obama a cough drop, yeah, it's funny to laugh at, but it's also very symbolic of this sort of symbiosis that's formed under Trump between neoconservatives and neoliberals like Obama and the Clintons. And all they want is to preserve the status quo that they presided over or that they benefited under for decades now. And that status quo is tied directly to the national security state, to the CIA, to the Pentagon, to the FBI, to the NSA, there are so many. And because it keeps them in a comfortable place, so to speak, because it keeps them in power, because it enriches them, that's what they want back. And that's why they were so vehemently opposed to Trump. And that's why Russiagate was invented, and then taxpayer money was wasted for years on nothing, because Trump, as despicable as he is, he said it like it was, and what he said presented a threat to that national security state status quo. And so they were going to try to get him out with Russiagate. That didn't work. Then they childishly tried the what was it called? They tried accusing Russia of paying the Taliban to assassinate.
The bounties.
Yeah, Bountygate, and they were definitely buying into that because it was a story against Donald Trump. Anything that's just against Donald Trump, they would just lash out at it, no matter how how much lack of evidence there is, no matter how much it could backfire on the left eventually. They just went with it.
Yeah, but just to finish my point off, I think that somebody like Anna Kasparian, she's basically a stenographer for these people and helping to keep them in power. And she does so because it's lucrative for her. I doubt she has to worry about income or healthcare or if her kids are going to eat, things that we all have to worry
And
about.
she never had to. Like Jimmy Dore always said, people at the Young Turks grew up in cul-de-sacs. They never experienced they never experienced what poor people go through.
Right. And so I think that's where she comes from, and she's just one of many. Barry Weiss is another one. Ann Applebaum, who I mentioned earlier, who's just like anything that has to do with Russia is going to make her fucking head explode. There are a lot of these functionaries, and they've been also recruited by these like cutouts that have popped up since Trump's election. Like the Integrity Initiative, for example, in the UK. Anne Applebaum is a part of that. And you read her books. Her latest book is on Stalin and Ukraine and the famine that took place there. But it's basically a rant against Stalin and kind of using the famine and you know, the horror that did happen there, just using that as kind of like a backdrop to prop up her argument against Stalin. And then in terms of her argument against Jimmy Dore, when you're leading off an argument saying that somebody is coming from a bad faith position, then you just totally negate the possibility of having an argument, because you've already said, well, anything they say is is full of shit. So
yeah. And they do this all the time. Like it doesn't matter. It's the same thing that she does with Tulsi. Anything Tulsi says, it's not good. And that's it. That person is bad. And anything that they say, no matter what it is, it's bad now. Like I said, she could save, all the puppies and the fire and all that stuff. Like it doesn't matter. And it's the same thing with Trump. They won't ever agree with Trump. It doesn't matter what he says or what, it actually means. It's just Trump said it, so it's bad. And it's this surface level thinking. It's so, and I think that maybe you're giving her too much credit as far as being, I think that she is just a careerist, and she knows who writes her checks, and she has a CAA agent, and she just got $20 million in Katzenberg cash. And they don't Jeffrey Katzenberg doesn't just give somebody $20 million and not expect something in return. And he's a Democratic Party mega donor. Mm-hmm. So you tell me what TYT is, like this, I'm not telling you to watch it or not. I'm just saying, be mindful of who they are, what they do, who they take money from, who they go to parties with, all of those things, because who they interview, what jobs they take, that's all stuff that you should be mindful of and aware of as a viewer of the Young Turks, for sure.
And they are, based off of everything we just said, by definition, corporate news. So I want to give a shout out to people in the chat who are recurrent people. Thomas, Oklahoma. Glory Jones, thank you so much for stopping by. Glory Jones has been on the show several times before. She's a great commentator and analyst. Karen and Propaganda, thank you guys so much for stopping by. So I have another tweet that I want to go over. This is one, I don't know if you guys caught this one. By the way, if you guys don't know who Misty is, and if you're a fan of Jimmy Dore regularly puts up her tweets to make a point.
That's always fun. That's always fun. And then it's even funnier because then for the next, 12 hours, I get 400 DMs of people like, Jimmy, here's your tweet. And I'm like, yeah, thanks.
Well, he puts them up rightfully so. And if you're not following Misty, you should start following her.
I tweet too much, fam. Real talk.
Yeah, you never want to miss it's hard to keep up.
Yeah.
All right.
I have a
So
lot of thoughts, and am I supposed to talk to my 10-year-old about this stuff?
Well, just
yeah.
sorry, Franco. Just before you get to the next question, just sort of dovetailing off of that. So Misty and I obviously host a show together,
Hmm.
and I have my notifications set for Misty's tweets, for a bunch of other people. I don't get notifications for Misty's tweets anymore, and there's something very suspicious about that.
Dude, I'm telling you, people tell me all the time they have to re-like my tweets, retweet my tweets. It's not just me. Like, it happens to a lot of people. It happens to Tulsi. It happens to Jimmy Dore's tweets. It happens to George Galloway's tweets. It's just Twitter fuckery. But yeah,
By design.
yeah.
Whoever's the biggest
And
threat.
I'm sure I'm on somebody's list on Twitter, like some higher up. I'm sure. I'm positive. It is what it is.
Mike Pompeo's fuming over you.
I doubt it. I'm nowhere near that cool, but I'm sure somebody is, keeping an eye on me.
Well, I don't think that this next person who I'm going to talk about is on this list. I don't know if you guys caught this. This is from Francesca Fiorentini, and she had an urge to put this tweet up about Jimmy Dore. She said, that time working class hero Jimmy Dore DM harassed me from his vacation, this is true, in Venice. I had asked him politely to not call a journalist in Syria Al-Qaeda. Folks, there are plenty of left pundits with far better politics. Get you one of those. And then she went on to say, this was my tweet that somehow set him off, responding to him calling Shane CIA/Al-Qaeda. Of course, this entered me into the forever bad faith discussion on the left about Syria. And this is like around the time when Jimmy just had it with TYT's bullshit. And then this was the tweet that pissed Jimmy off. It said, "Thank you and others for naming this. The pathology, the left of painting the Middle East with the same brush to stick it to an imaginary democratic and media Illuminati is utterly delusional and disheartening. I say this as someone who wants to see Dore and others do better." And then Richard Medhurst. If you're not subscribed to him, you should go ahead and subscribe to him. He just had a great interview with Jimmy Dore. He said,
he just interview with Chris Hedges too.
Yeah, that was really good. He's been having great people on. He said Jimmy Dore is one of the only people who told the truth about Syria, and I forgot to thank him earlier when he was on my show for sticking up for my country against the lies and propaganda. You should keep better company than Al-Qaeda apologists and imperialists, you clown. And then he said also, this has literally zero, fucking nothing to do with Medicare for all and getting politicians to do their jobs, which only exposes what a bad faith actor you and the rest of the vile farts at TYT are. You'd rather bring up old beef than get people health care? Pathetic. And then she went on to block Richard Medhurst. And
okay, stop for a second. Let's talk about how infantile this is.
Right.
She doesn't address his point. She doesn't address his strategy. She doesn't address his plan. She doesn't address him on any substantive level at all. She goes straight to this high school drama.
She says nothing at all.
No,
in the middle of a national crisis, she's doing this.
Yeah. Yes. And, Jimmy Dore was mean to me 3 years ago. So everything that he says is obvious bullshit. Get over yourself, sis. No, that's not how this works. Was he mean to you? I mean, I vaguely remember that beef. I don't really remember what it was about, but she gets on my nerves too. I mean, she's TYT. So, but yeah, I don't understand this whole, I'm going to bring up this mean thing that Jimmy Dore did to me in the second grade, and use that as my argument against why his point is bad. That is the definition of being a bad faith actor. You want to accuse him of doing that? Look in the mirror. Check yourself.
Yeah, and also I think it's important to pull back and ask yourself, who are these people? What are their functions? What have they contributed to humanity? because they write for the New Yorker or because they are pushing a never Trump agenda, we're automatically supposed to take anything they say seriously. These people are nobodies. They can't even write well. You look at their tweets and it's like, did you even write this, or did you have your son write this? And it's
It's really childish, I know.
Well, and let's not even forget the point.
The
Jimmy
problem-
Dore was fucking right. He was fucking right about Syria. He got Russiagate right. He got Venezuela right. He got all these things right. You got them wrong. You know, like the TYT crowd, the Sam Cedar crowd, they all got that shit wrong. Jimmy got it right. That's why they're mad at him.
And they don't want to own up to it.
And with regard to Syria, I don't understand what these people are seeking. I get that they reflexively hate Assad, but I don't know why, and I don't know what kind of vision they dare have for Syria, as if they have any say in the future of Syria or its citizens. And these people are really despicable. People like Oz Chatterjee. I'm going to bring that up. I mean, this guy is basically a stenographer for Al-Qaeda's franchise in Syria, which is the Islamic State. Most of it's been thankfully removed from the country at this point, but it still has its pockets here and there. And these are also the same people who attacked Robert Fisk when he died and said he made up this, he made up that. When he went to visit Duma in 2018 after the supposed chemical attack, that he fabricated what he wrote. I encourage anybody to go to the Independent and read his account of traveling there, and you'll see there's no fabrication. And I don't have a problem with somebody opposing somebody else's point of view, but when there's no goal to it, when there's no purpose to it, like, what do you want to see? Do you want to see Wahhabi Contras ruling over Syria? That's your vision of like a humane world? I really don't understand these people. And, you know, first and only time I ever tweeted at Oz Chatterjee, who I think comes from the Vice milieu, which is a whole nother discussion of phony journalists.
Yeah.
He blocked me, and it's just prima facie evidence right there that these people don't want to have a serious discussion. They have an agenda to push, and they push the agenda because they're paid for it, and they get to cultivate an image for themselves. They have like a blue check mark and cool picture on Twitter, and they get published in
Jacobin.
Yeah, you know, just these sort of like almost like prepubescent journals of politics, like people who really don't have any kind of realistic or materialistic in terms of Marxist materialism. They have like no grasp on the real world. I don't know where these people are coming from most of the time.
You just might as well watch mainstream media if you wanna learn about foreign policy, like rather than to watch them, because they're just repeating mainstream corporate media talking points, and it's intelligence talking points. So what's the point? Like, they're not challenging anything if they're just repeating what the mainstream media is saying. And then it seems like the research that they conduct is just like Googling and hitting like the top, like, I don't know, like 3 results that show up.
Yeah,
that really is about the extent of it. Yeah, that's about it.
Well, that's what it's become, and I think that capitalism has a lot to do with that, because under capitalism, you're incentivized to tweet more, to get more followers, to get more donors, subscribers. It's always about more, 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 and that's really all these people care about. If you really care about human rights in Syria, there's no way you would advocate for regime change, for removing Assad. And I don't think these people even know history either. Robert Fisk's 2 of his best books, one is called Pity the Nation, The Abduction of Lebanon, which is about the Lebanese Civil War. And then after that, he wrote The Great War for Civilization, The Conquest of the Middle East, which I recommend anybody who's watching or listening to read. It'll teach you more about the Middle East historically and otherwise than probably any other book out there. But these books are like 1,000 pages long. I don't see Oz Chatterjee sitting down and reading any of these books. And also, when he references Assad, it's always about Bashar al-Assad. He never references Hafez al-Assad, Bashar's father, never talks about the massacre that happened in Hama under Hafez al-Assad, Assad, sorry. And I just don't think these people really know history.
They don't.
They're looking to make a mark for themselves, and if that means attacking a journalist who spent 40 years in the Middle East with, and if you read The Great War for Civilization, you'll read this. When he was covering the Iran-Iraq War, he was getting shot at by snipers, Iranian snipers, and the bullets were passing so close to his head that he could feel the air pressure change. Like, who the fuck is Oz Chatterjee to write a takedown on Robert Fisk? Like,
and to wait until after he's dead, like to be such a douche canoe that this amazing journalist dies, and you decide that you're going to then slander him rather than having had the courage. If you have beef with, you could have totally brought that up, years ago, months ago, whenever. But no, you wait until he's dead and then you slander him. And Fisk is.
he's a keyword.
He's a real journalist, like real, I'm on the ground, on the streets, immersed in this story. That's Robert Fisk. And I mean, these turds who are out there criticizing him, don't leave the newsroom.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's crazy.
Oz Chatterjee, if you see this, I would like to know if you've ever been to Duma, if you traveled there after the supposed chemical attack that provoked Trump to launch an airstrike, and which the OPCW whistleblowers have now revealed never happened.
Jesse, he didn't need to go. CNN sent a reporter and she smelled a backpack. That's all we need.
Yeah. It's very frustrating, and I don't understand what kind of agenda these people are trying to push. Like, what do they want?
They want a higher paying job. Like they want comfort. But let's guide people to like better sources here. Like when it comes to history, which like TYT obviously lacks, Jacobin obviously like lacks as well. Check out Caleb Maupin. Check out Hakeem. Check out Moderate Rebels. Or better yet, like the Gray Zone, which is what they're part of. And like for foreign policy, I recommend the Gray Zone. Check out Robert Inlakesh from The Last American Vagabond. Who else do you guys recommend? Vanessa Beeley or Eva Bartlett?
Yeah.
Whitney Webb.
For civil liberties, definitely Whitney Webb. I think she's also done like a couple foreign policy stuff as well.
Listen,
right?
if we're just talking like just cool people who have like shows or write or whatever, there's a lot. Like Slow News Day, Whitney Webb. Why am I blinking? See, this is why I hate doing this on Twitter too, because I always forget everybody.
Check out Moss Robeson if you haven't. He's
great on Ukraine.
A lot of great writing and research on the rise of neo-Nazism in Ukraine. We've had him on the show 3 times. He's just great.
Morgan Archukina. Morgan Archukina.
Absolutely.
They write for Sputnik. They cover like a wide variety of stuff, but just a really great writer. Let's see.
Alex Rubenstein.
Yeah, you're right, Anthony Reyes. Whitney Webb does know foreign policy.
Yes, she does. Whitney Webb knows everything. Like, it's kind of ridiculous. It's annoying, actually. Like, she's like this like little computer inside her head.
Does she sleep? She has so much information.
I don't know how she keeps all of that information. I mean, I have severe ADHD, so I can't imagine having all of that, like, neatly placed in my brain to where I can just get it whenever I need it. It's so amazing to me. I don't know, like somebody should study her brain. It's great.
I want to point out one last tweet that Richard Medhurst put up. And that was that there is no infighting on the left. You have liberals and imperialists masquerading as the progressive left, currently being exposed by jagoffs in their garage and bedrooms. Quite amusingly, I might add. And that is a very accurate statement. Like
It is an
you're
incredibly
either you're either an imperialist or you're not. You're either a liberal or you're not.
Right.
Like you're repeat like
Well,
we were just saying.
yeah, I tweeted recently. There, it seems to me that there are two types of leftists. There are the kind of leftists who think that criticism of AOC equals infighting, and then there are leftists who know that AOC isn't part of our team, and therefore it can't be infighting. These people. And I know that I go hard on the progressives. It's because to me, they're the most dangerous. They pretend to be on your side. They're very good at the rhetoric. They do an impressive cosplay. They really do. I mean, AOC especially, she's very convincing. I get it.
I really like she went to the southern border in her fancy pantsuit and she screamed through a fence at an empty parking lot.
Yeah, I mean, all you have to do is look at the things that, yes, she does say the words Medicare for all a lot. And she does say the word Green New Deal a lot. But all you have to do, Jim Jordan did a great job of showing like her 2017 self versus now. Yeah. Yep. It is a drastic change. She is not fighting for the same things anymore. You just have this image of her in your head that you want to believe is still real. It's not, fam. She is not your friend. Just look at her voting record. She has voted to expand NATO. She voted to expand the surveillance state. She voted for the CARES Act. Voted for Nancy Pelosi. When she was running the first time, she said, "I will not vote for Nancy Pelosi for Speaker of the House." And then guess what? She did.
And then lied about for the CARES Act.
I don't know. Honestly, you guys, I don't know what the fuck else it will take before you realize that this person is not your friend. She could not be more obvious about it. And I understand that you want to have like this person to hold on to and everybody's desperate and wants something or someone to believe in. She ain't it. She ain't it. I promise you.
And I think that points to a bigger sort of picture that this system of government that we have, no one is ever going to be able to infiltrate it and change it from the inside. The system is so finely calibrated at this point that even if you go into it like Obama did or AOC did, whether they were honest about their claims or not, let's just give them the benefit of the doubt that they were honest about the claims they made. Like Obama really did want to close Gitmo, and AOC really is about Medicare for all.
The thing about like TYT,
once you get into that system, you quickly realize that 99% of the reaction to what you stand for is pushback, and it's not going to happen. And it's either you be the nail that sticks up and gets hammered down and lose your career, or you go along to get along and you keep your career and you get your nice blouses and or your nice suits, and you get to stand up and filibuster at some point. Or with AOC and Bernie, it was a voice vote for the CARES Act, and they both voted for it and then went on to lie about voting against it. And
they lied about, like, Bernie lied about his participation in getting the one good thing that he like gave the speech about actually getting for people.
Yeah, Michael Bennett had already written that part.
It was already part of and then he lied about that. This dude straight lied to his own supporters.
Yeah.
And people still support him. It's, I get it. Like, and I get a lot. Like the other day I had somebody tell me that, nitpicking about this stuff, like nitpicking. This is not nitpicking.
No,
this is, you guys really like, have they beaten you down that hard where this is nitpicking? I mean, that's sad to me that you accept so little for yourself, truly.
So, and I was just going to say, like, the thing about TYT and like following AOC is like, you think that you're out of the matrix because they talk about how there's corporations that influence our politics, but you're not out of the matrix yet. I was just going to make that point. Like, people think that they have it all figured out, and I guess that might be a reason for a lot of the arrogance that people have who still follow these people, because they think they have it all figured out, but they're not there yet. They're not fully out of the matrix.
No, and as long as there's colossal, obscene, hideous amounts of corporate money that are allowed to control the campaigns of this system, which, as I said earlier, is questionable. Like, do we even want this system? That's another conversation. But as long as that corporate money is able to dominate, as long as Sheldon Adelson, as long as Jeffrey Katzenberg, as long as Jeff Bezos are able to monopolize who our choices are because of their obscene, undeserved incomes, nothing's going to change. And you'll get somebody like a flash in the pan like AOC, but again, they're just going to be subsumed by that system. They're either going to actually have the courage of their convictions, which never happens, or they're going to go along to get along, which is what always happens. And that's what she did. And that's what she's been doing. And, you know, she can tweet whatever she wants and put on her patina of progressivism and, you know, just ramble on about some Elysian bubble she lives in while she's cooking her fucking zesty lemon. But they really don't have any concept of what it's like to be people like us, to live day to day. Like, I live paycheck to paycheck. I just speaking for myself, and I don't have health insurance. I haven't had health insurance in about 2 years. I had Medicaid, and then my salary, I don't even have a salary. I get paid hourly, but it went up slightly, just a little bit above like their limit, and I was cut off. So I don't have health insurance, and these people don't have to deal with that. It's like, I mean, what kind of mind frame do you have to be in to know what's happening in the world and then be comfortable enough to go home to your swanky DC apartment and cook some shitty meal while you live stream it and talk about
cutting vegetables, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just,
No, and I think that that's actually a really good point that you're making, because for me, what Jimmy is doing isn't even, I don't believe in electoral politics. I say this all the time. There is no way you're going to reform this system. You can't vote your way out of this. I do not believe in electoral politics. So I don't really give a shit about who is speaker or who they, I mean, that it really doesn't matter. But the thing that Jimmy is doing here for me is exposing progressives. And that is unbelievably important. They need to be exposed over and over and over again, because like I said earlier, people have this like mythology built up in their head about who these people are. They don't pay attention to their actual votes. They don't pay attention to what they actually do. They're impressed by snarky tweets and dramatic speeches and strongly worded letters and
sweatshirts.
You know, that's the problem. Like, we have to get past that. This whole, I call them celebritians. Like, they're not even really politicians. They're brands. They're, you know, walking, talking political ads. They're not, this is not, our political system is beyond a farce at this point. We do not have politicians. We have, you know, celebrities. We have these people and they don't work for us. Like, it's a game to them. It's careerism. It's all about, you know, climbing for themselves. And, you know, are there some of them who, you know, maybe started with good intentions, or maybe even have convinced themselves that they still have good intentions? I'm sure there are some people who really think that they're actually doing some good, but I mean, look around, they're not. They're not. We can't even get progressives to fight for Medicare for all when we're in the middle of a pandemic.
So,
I mean, we live in a cartoon. Steve says it all the time. Steve Poikonen, Slow News Day. Everybody check out his show.
Yeah.
He says it all the time. He's absolutely right. We live in a cartoon. It's crazy.
So one of the things
at the same time, we're giving Israel $3.8 million a year.
Yeah.
So that they can continue their genocide against the Palestinians, and then they
have health care.
They can also offer universal health care and free education to the colonizers that live in that so-called country.
Yeah.
Everybody's fine with it. Everybody's fine with it. But, like, that's normal.
Yeah, and I think that brings up an important point with regard to Medicare for all is that the constant elephant in the room is the military budget. But
Hmm.
nobody wants to talk about that or address that. I mean, the NDAA, it just keeps fucking passing. And we're talking, they say 740 trillion, but if you look at ancillary expenses, sorry, 740 billion, but if you look at ancillary expenses, it's well over $1 trillion a year that we're spending on the military. And why? Again another conversation to have, but if you don't address that in your argument for Medicare for all, you're just I don't know where you are. You're like beyond left field. You're outside of the stadium. Like that is like the first and foremost thing that needs to be cut or just done away with completely. That would be ideal.
Can't even remember the last time AOC talked about the military-industrial complex. And
Oh my
also,
gosh. She doesn't even talk about it in the Green New Deal. And I'm sorry,
that's
but
what I was going to bring up.
if your environmentalism doesn't address the military industrial complex, it's useless. Let's be real. Come on.
And
That's like a joke upon a joke. I mean, the fact that she's taken seriously on her Green New Deal when it doesn't include, she didn't even mention fracking. I mean, but now she's complaining because Joe Biden doesn't want to ban fracking. Sis, that's not even in your bill or your resolution. You know,
she did propose like a ban fracking bill, but like much later when she received criticism. But I haven't seen her champion it. And also the movement that she champions, that she quote unquote protested with, the Sunrise Movement, also never addresses the military-industrial complex, which is, you know, one of the top, if not the top, most contributor to climate change.
I think it is the top.
And you guys saw like how she was like when she was replying to Justin Jackson, she was saying, "Oh, we have like committee deals that we're trying to get. Like we're doing things like behind the scenes." So I want to pull this tweet up. This was from Anya Parampil.
Rest assured,
And
we're working in your best interest. Rest assured.
yeah,
We just
So
can't tell you about it. This is gonna like seriously. This is gonna cause a rant. I'm sorry in advance.
we're
I'm
yeah
sorry.
we're gonna. I can't wait to hear it. So
Sorry.
Anya Parampil. You know, I've interviewed her before. She was like the second person I ever interviewed when I was on the
I love
ground.
Anya.
Yeah,
She
Anya's
said
awesome.
when she entered Congress, AOC staged a faux quote unquote protest of Pelosi and said it was her job to back up the House Speaker. Now we see her playing the same role again as she rejects grassroots demands to challenge Pelosi on Medicare for all. Judge her by her words, and then she plays a video which shows that Pelosi knew about this protest that AOC was going to do, and then she went on to vote for Nancy Pelosi as Speaker of the House. Let's hear the rant, Misty.
Okay, this is some of the most frustrating. It's offensive. Like it is offensive to me that you know that protest, first of all, was so staged. I don't know why anybody thought that was a legitimate protest. Anyways, it could. I mean, come on. It looked obviously staged, but
That was like the worst attempt at a color revolution ever staged.
yeah. But oh shit. Now I forget what I was gonna say.
How
But
she
yeah,
stages stuff.
What?
You were gonna say like how she like pretends to be this protester, but you know
Oh,
she does
okay.
it in
Well, and
advance.
another thing that, okay, yes, thank you. Okay, another thing that annoyed me about that protest is when she was interviewed afterward, she, was telling people that Nancy Pelosi comes from a place of protest and that she's really an activist at heart. And that was the biggest load of bullshit I've ever heard. I mean, I don't know a ton about Nancy Pelosi's history, and there's, I'm sure that maybe she did attend some protests. I have no idea. But to think that Nancy Pelosi, like 2020 Nancy Pelosi, or 2018, I guess it would have been Nancy Pelosi, is an activist or has like a protester's heart. Are you kidding? She's 100 millionaire. Her fridge costs more than some people's cars. It's absurd to think that Nancy Pelosi is a woman of the people. And it's, this, I don't know, this whole crap about stealing another party's platform, watering it down, making it corporate friendly, making it your own, and then, lecturing people. seriously, there's so many things that I could go off about these people about, because it really is just performative. All of this, it's so performative to me. It's all like a political theater. The protest was political theater, and then she's on the cover of Rolling Stone with Nancy Pelosi, like a couple months later, and she's voting for her for Speaker of the House, and she's calling her Mama Bear. I mean, I don't know
Do you know
any
the,
progressive. Oh,
Steve,
go ahead.
do you know the provenance of that Mama Bear? Where does that come from?
Mama Bear,
Okay,
like
so
Mama
I-
and Papa Bear.
Like I get, like
No,
Pelosi's
she gave
the
she
older
gave an
Mama
interview.
Bear, but like why Mama Bear? Nancy
Okay,
Pelosi
well, it's
doesn't look
just
like a
okay.
bear.
So first, it's a meme. It's like a parenting meme. Like it's a, if you are a mom, then you're kind of a mama bear when it comes to your kids. Like you're very protective, and you want to take care of everybody, whatever. It's that sort of a thing. But she gave, where it came from is she gave an interview. I don't know if it was like to Vanity Fair or I don't know, somebody. But that's how she described Nancy Pelosi. She called her the mama bear of the House or of Congress or whatever. And any progressive who heard her say that and then continue to think that she is somebody who's going to stand up to Nancy Pelosi is I mean, that's mental gymnastics that I can't even like wrap my head around.
Right.
Anybody, she's not ever, never, she is never going to stand up to Nancy Pelosi. Never. That's a problem. Isn't that the whole point of them? Wasn't it supposed to be like, we're going to elect these progressives and they're going to go in there and they're going to fight and they're going to stand up to Nancy Pelosi and they're going to, push back against the corruption and, we're going to rally the troops and we're going to, no, they've capitulated at every turn. They're not fighting for you. They're not fighting for you at all.
So let me quote something real quick. The Justice Democrats are not meant to be, well, I'm paraphrasing here. The Justice Democrats are not meant to be making friends with other politicians in Congress. Kyle Kalinske, the founder of the Justice Democrats, said that. But not just AOC, because we've been going off on her, but the rest of the squad have been making friends with the people that we're supposed to be fighting against. Like, these are the people that we voted for you to fight against, yet you're capitulating with them. So are you really for the people, or are you more for your career?
To me, the answer is obvious that they're more for their career. Take Rashida Tlaib or Ilhan Omar. So let's take Rashida Tlaib, for example. Great. First Palestinian woman elected to Congress in the U.S. That's a good thing, objectively. What has she done? Absolutely nothing. What has she done for Palestinian self-determination to stop Israel's genocide against them? Absolutely nothing. Ilhan Omar, a refugee from Somalia. Great that she's elected to Congress. That's a good thing, objectively. What has she done to stop the U.S.'s forever war on Somalia, to stop drone assassinations there? Nothing. They've done nothing but, as Misty has been saying, be performative. And I don't know how long that needs to go on before people realize that it's complete bullshit, but it seems like it's going to go on for a while. And I think
these people make justifications and, it's their first term, or, there's only a few of them. We got to get a few more in there.
We got them.
You have to stop excusing the inexcusable. The whole point to these progressives running and for us electing them was so that they could go to Congress and flip some fucking tables, right? That was the point. Like, we're going to go in there and we're going to mess shit up and we're going to take over, and we have the people behind us, and that's what we're going to do. And that's not what they're doing. And it's not even just, like you guys said, it's not just AOC, it's, all of them. And I mean, some of them were less impressive just from start. Like Ayanna Pressley she was a Hillary surrogate. She bashed Bernie Sanders in 2016. Like, I didn't expect much from
Elizabeth
her.
Warren.
Yeah, she endorsed Elizabeth Warren. Like, I really wasn't expecting much from her anyway. But when you're like an AOC or an Ilhan Omar, AOC really, I know that sounds unfair to like point her out, but she's the one that ran on this, super progressive. And it's her own words. Like Jimmy Dore showed the videos of her in 2017 or whatever it was, talking about how we have to, take chances and we have to be bold and we have to hold them accountable and we have to make it happen. Like we have to go in there and pressure them. That's the only way you get things done. These are all things that she said. And, now it's 2020 and look what she's doing. Look what she's saying. Look what she's done. Nothing. Why is it okay with you? Why is that okay? I don't get that.
So
Yeah.
even if the Democrats don't vote for Nancy Pelosi, or they force her to actually agree to put Medicare for all up for a vote, like let's say that happens, and then if it goes far enough, Joe Biden can veto it. You know what this does? Like no matter which step you go through, the point of this is that it exposes who's actually fighting and who's not fighting. And that's what Jimmy Dore's goal was. I don't think Jimmy Dore thinks that this is gonna be a success, like a quote unquote success, but it will be a success in terms of it'll expose who's actually fighting for us.
Right.
And what better time to do that than when people are hyper focused on the fact that we don't have healthcare? I mean, in a pandemic, that's something that people kind of start paying attention to a little bit more. The fact that we don't have healthcare in this country. So now there is no better time than right now to do what Jimmy Dore is doing. Is it a perfect plan? No, of course not. I mean, are there other plans that we could go with? Are there other? But who else? If you want to criticize Jimmy Dore, fine. That's okay. I will totally take that. If you want to criticize him on his idea, what's your idea? Come up with something better. Like he's the only one who's come up with some sort of a solution to force some sort of action to benefit the people. I mean, and I think he's overly optimistic. I think that he thinks that it would pass in the House. I think that the donors will never allow that to happen. Maybe just for, just to save face a little bit and to be performative because they know that it won't get through the Senate and they know that Joe Biden has already said that he would veto it anyways, which is amazing that, that's the thing that's okay
in a
with
pandemic.
People. In a pandemic. And people still voted for him. They thought that they were, doing some great service to humanity. You didn't. So yeah, I just think that it's all this
health isn't free. Come on, man.
And it'll show
lose some weight. Look fat, lose some weight, then you won't have health problems. Vote for Trump.
Like in the history books.
Biden. Vote for the other Biden.
In the history books, we will see how during a pandemic they were refusing to give people universal health care. Meanwhile, the rest of the world had universal health care. And look at all the money that's owed to us too, like the stimulus. Like we only got a $1,200 check. Some people didn't get it. And then in other countries, they're receiving way more monthly. Like the bare minimum is Medicare for all.
$1,200. That's all you got. You live in the richest country in the world. I know that gets said a lot and it sounds like hyperbolic or whatever, but you live in a very rich country and you have only gotten $1,200 from your government in the middle of a pandemic, which no matter your opinion on whether it's hoax or it's real or it was man-made or it was whatever, that matters not. The fact that we are in a pandemic that has caused massive shutdowns of our economy and, quarantines and all of this stuff that has completely destroyed people's way of life. And we have only gotten $1,200 in 9 months. And people are just walking around like that's an okay thing. Like that's a norm. Are you kidding me? We should be storming the Bastille at this point. Like that is insanity that's all that we have gotten. It's crazy.
Yeah. And I think it points out the necessity to look at what's going on structurally from an economic perspective with regard to capitalism and how fundamentally, I tweeted this out the other day, but how fundamentally it is incompatible it is with human welfare. The fact that this country is willing to blow over $1 trillion on forever wars, but will only toss you your rent money one time. It says everything about the economic system that we live under and how it does not care about human welfare. It cares about profit. Trump's main concern during the pandemic has been what? The economy. He wants to get the economy back going. Like that's going to fix something. Like if people are getting paychecks, then automatically COVID's going to go away. So I think we have to look at it from the root problem, or one of the root problems of capitalism, being something that undergirds this country, the same way Zionism undergirds Israel. It's toxic, it's deformative, it's anti-human, and if we don't take that into account, then I don't think we're performing an honest assessment of what we're experiencing right now. And frankly, I don't think that somebody like AOC has the intellect to even go there. I don't think one of the early episodes of our show before Misty joined me, I interviewed Max Blumenthal, and we talked about her NATO vote, and I think he made a very salient point that she probably has no idea what NATO is, or why it was founded, or that it's this Cold War relic that's totally unnecessary, but used as constantly as this threat to Russia, to ward off some imaginary threat they pose to us. So again, just getting back to my original point, I think the economic aspect is necessary to take into account. I mean, America is, as far as countries go, the embodiment of capitalism. Again, that's what undergirds everything here. That's why the only industry left in this country is the arms manufacturing industry. And again, unless we address that, it doesn't make you a socialist for questioning that. Not that there's anything wrong with being a socialist. Doesn't make you a communist. Doesn't make you an anarchist. It makes you a sensible person who's asking, why are we wasting this money on aggression toward other people in the world? And then at home, go to LA, people are just the amount of people sleeping under overpasses in LA it's insane.
Right here in DC, in the belly of the beast, you see tent cities here too.
Yeah. Yeah. I know Max has mentioned that on other shows that, he's like, he said something to the effect of, I think this was with regard to Venezuela, like, who are we to be telling Venezuela how to protect the welfare of their people when we can't even figure it out in our own country?
We could just defer to caucus leadership.
Yeah.
Like what AOC said. Yeah, AOC,
Yeah.
She's definitely lacking in a lot of history, foreign policy, because I don't know if you guys saw how she was about to go to an event praising an Israeli war criminal named Yatsin Rabin. And then she pulled out after she received a lot of backlash. Did you guys remember that?
Yeah. Oh, so you're talking about Yitzhak Rabin, who he was assassinated in 1994, I believe. And yeah, he was, he's still championed as this Israeli prime minister who spearheaded the Oslo Accords, which we all know by now went nowhere. And one of the primary reasons they went nowhere is because while he was negotiating that supposed peace deal, he was also approving the building of thousands of more illegal Jewish-only colonies in the West Bank. And so people think like Israel comes to the table in a good faith effort. They don't. They don't. And they have the green light from the United States. And their intention is to annex all of that land and make it Eretz Israel. And if you read Zionist philosophy and history, Israel is, according to Zionism, supposed to have all of its borders as water. So, for example, right now it has the Mediterranean, it has the Jordan River. When Israel invaded and tried to lay siege, well, it did lay siege to Lebanon in 2006. Part of that was to push north to the Litani River in Lebanon and make that their northern border. And then as the southern border, I believe they have the Red Sea. And it's, I don't know, I got off on a tangent here. Where was I going?
I don't know. You just did a Misty rant though, kind of. Although less hyperactive and dramatic, I guess.
So I don't want to like leave off the show without mentioning who we were talking about before we started the stream, who we said we were going to talk about, and that is David Sirota, who was on Jimmy's show recently. And so I didn't get to watch that part. I saw Jimmy discussing with Ryan Grimm, but apparently he was making it seem like he was against Jimmy's proposal, like, but then he like was like backtracking on Twitter, and then he went back on the show. So, Missy, did you keep up with that? Like,
So I missed him being on the show. It was just not very long ago, and it was like right around like dinner time and crazy time with my kids. So yeah, I didn't see him on the show, but I did see Jimmy talking about it after he had already been on. I saw people talking about it on Twitter, but David Sirota is an interesting character. I have very little respect for a journalist who can't be bothered to mention Julian Assange. So yeah, I've always had a problem with David Sirota because of that. So yeah, I don't know what the beef was with Jimmy. I do know that he was, trying to question his proposal or whatever. And I'm excited to go back and watch it once he uploads it to his website. So yeah, that'll be interesting. I'm excited to see how that went down live.
Anthony Reyes in the chat said he saw it. What exactly went down? Anthony, can you fill us in while Jesse gives his take and oh, you're finding it?
Yeah. Yeah, I heard it was pretty good though. Like Jimmy went off on him about, David Sirota is, he tries to pretend to be like this bad boy kind of the left, like this renegade. And he's not at all. He's not even like, he's as milquetoast centrist as you could get. I mean, this guy, he every once in a while puffs up his chest and like says something, but he also just like, I don't know. He's an interesting character. Like he really is. He complains a lot on Twitter. He whines about getting attacked all the time. But he also wants to, be this renegade guy or put that, persona up. And that's not what I see at all. At all.
No, he's not a renegade. And if you're somebody who is ostensibly working in journalism and then you swing over to a political campaign and become the speechwriter or PR person there, I don't consider you a journalist anymore, because then you're doing stenography for the person you're representing or you're paid to represent. And I feel the same, like these people are coming out now, like Brianna Gray Joy, for example, and trying to do these like mea culpas and like this went wrong and that went wrong and it wasn't really our fault. It's like, fuck you, don't gaslight me. I saw your tweets. I saw what you were doing when you were trying to bully people who actually wanted change into voting for Bernie Sanders as he was Russiagating himself. Like, fuck you. I don't have the best memory, but I remember a lot, and I remember that, and I just find it completely disingenuous that people like her and David Sirota are coming out now and trying to whine about whatever they're able to whine about. And, it really doesn't matter to them because, again, just like AOC, just like the Squad, they're cultivating a brand for themselves. They're being performative. And part of being performative is to whine about this or that, how Bernie was sabotaged, or like he didn't sabotage himself, or how, I'm David Sirota, people are being mean to me. Well, I mean, everything you put on Twitter is fucking corny, man. So it's going to be mean to you eventually.
I mean, listen, let's be fair. David Sirota has done some great journalism in the past. I mean, there's been a couple times where he's really done some good work. So I do want to be fair and say that, so it doesn't seem like I'm just being a complete asshole to David Sirota. But my dude, come on. You haven't, he doesn't, it's the same with all, like you said, with Brianna Joy Gray. They talk a big game, but when it actually comes time.
Brianna Joy Gray or Brianna Gray Joy? I can't remember.
I think it's Brianna Joy Gray. Okay, right? Okay.
Thanks for fixing that.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know you said it the other way. But I mean,
Yeah.
To me, it just seems like, again, we've said this, it's performative. Like they, know how to say the right words, but when it comes time to actually walk the walk and like actually fight, like stand up and fight, they aren't able to do that. And quite the contrary, they will gaslight you to work against your own best interests.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not. And I'm not saying that like, oh, we have to cancel these people. No, like if Brianna Joy Gray wants to come out in support of Julian Assange, then she's on my team for that. Like I could totally work with her on that. Like I'm down for that. But I am never going to think that those people are on my team. There's way too much. They come with way too much baggage and way too much. It's shady. Like that whole crew is shady. It seems like this. Trying to manipulate the progressive movement for your own personal gain. It's like they're working their way up their own kind of version of the political ladder. It's like the new thing to be. It's like it's hip now to be progressive, or
it's in style. It's like it's in fashion to do that.
Yes, it's very
The silver lining though to like 2020, which has been like the most chaotic year of my life, is that it's the year of exposure. I think 2019 was the year of hope. At least that's what it was for me. Like I thought that I was imagining 2020 we were gonna end up with like Tulsi and Bernie as president and VP. But
poor sweet child, listen to you.
I went through a rude awakening, and I think that people are now experiencing that. Shout out to Tony Watches Closely. One person we didn't go into too much detail here, but is also getting exposed along with all these other fake progressives, is Ilhan Omar's husband just received $365,000 COVID bailout money despite her paying his company $2.25 million alone this year.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Shady. All of them. Listen, y'all, all of them. Financial shit, they're all shady. Jesse mentioned earlier that AOC took a crap ton more money from certain corporations. And I mean, Robbie Yeager does great work on this. There's a couple, I have a friend who tries to lay low on Twitter, but they will DM me information. I have thought about maybe compiling some of this information and putting it into a show, because all of these people have very shady financial situations. All of these people who run as self-proclaimed socialists or democratic socialists or progressives or whatever, they start off, trying to keep their stuff pretty clean, but eventually it all starts to come forward. And, there's quite a few of them that are taking some very shady money in very creative ways. And it's, Sunshine, whatever what's it called? Sunshine.
The Sunrise Movement. The Sunrise Movement is like a corporate movement.
Shady. I mean, all of these all of them, you guys, all of them.
Just read Cory Morningstar to learn more about the Sunrise Movement and 350.org.
Cory Morningstar is another super brain person. She's amazing.
Yeah, I just wanted to read a part of AOC's Twitter bio, because I think it really speaks to the cynicism and hypocrisy that she stands for. In a modern, moral, and wealthy society, no American should be too poor to live. 100% people-funded, no lobbyist money. That's all false at this point. Maybe it once was the case when she had her 15 minutes of glory way back when, but it's a complete lie now. And how can you say that in a modern, moral, and wealthy society, no American should be too poor to live, but pushing for Medicare for all is just like it just
Beyond the pale. Oh my God.
Definitely, yeah.
You must
We should
be
have
a
had
right
it
wing
years ago,
grifter.
decades ago. Like there was
Yes.
like a speech by John F. Kennedy saying that we're like 30 years behind the European countries because they have universal health care. And here we are. How many years has it been now? 60 years since
And
that
it's not
speech?
even like just, first world countries, it's not even just European countries. I mean, there are, like we said, Israel has Medicare for all. Like countries like Rwanda have Medicare for, oh, not Medicare for all, but they have healthcare. They have universal healthcare. And, the fact that it honestly makes me sad because it seems to me what has happened is that Americans have allowed themselves over time to be convinced that they don't deserve any better. And you fucking do. You do. Like, you deserve better than this. You deserve to be able to see a doctor when you're sick. That shouldn't be a controversial statement. Everybody in this country should be able to go to a doctor if they're sick. That shouldn't even be up for debate. It's insane that Americans have allowed themselves to believe that this is it. This is all we deserve. This is the best we can get. It's crazy business. Y'all, we work really hard. Americans work really hard. Every other country laughs at us because we run ourselves to death and we work constantly. And, we have 12-hour days at work. I mean, there are countries who like take a break in the middle of the day, like everybody, for, naps. And we work really hard and you deserve more. You deserve more, period. That's it.
yeah. And I think it's worth asking yourself, and I ask myself too, as somebody who lives paycheck to paycheck, what does this system want from me? Does it have my best interests in mind? I mean, to me, the answer is an unequivocal no, but I think it's a
We're
question.
human cattle. We're human cattle to them.
Yeah,
We're,
and I think that's a question we need to ask. And, then it gets into the conversation of dismantling the system, and then a lot of people will push back against that because it sounds utopian or unrealistically anarchist. But if we keep the same system we have now, what's happening now is not just going to continue, it's going to get worse. And I don't have the answer how to change that. I have some ideas, but I think it's something that we need people like us, the three of us, and everybody who's, you know, um, sort of on board with us, like our comrades, like we need to decide together collectively how to do that. And it's not impossible. It's not beyond us. Yeah, it might be uncomfortable, but what's the other option? Just let this keep going until New York is 100 feet underwater, or Israel finally decides to nuke Iran. If not now, when? And
It's
that's a very
when
it's a very
everything
cliche
it's when everything
platitude.
becomes automated and we're no longer
yeah.
here and it's just the elites.
And the longer we wait to address it, the harder it's going to be. They're making it harder and harder and harder as we speak. They're taking away our right to protest. They're taking away our right to speech. They're taking away our right to have access to information that's outside of their, what they deem to be allowable. I mean, they are setting us up. We are sleepwalking into our own demise. Like, nobody's paying attention, and they're taking away all of your rights, and they're going to make it incredibly difficult for you to fight back at any point. Once you finally realize, oh shit, look what's happening, they're taking away all of your tools in order to fight back against that. And you have to stop doing that. This is a big deal, you guys. I mean, I tend to get overly dramatic about it, but it really is a big deal. This is it. It really is genuinely a turning point in human history right now. You're living in it. Look around, and then try to be, more active in how we fight back against this shit, because Jesse's right. It is only going to get worse. It is only going to get worse. I mean, a lot worse.
So how do you
Fast.
propose people can like start forming communities? So do you guys know of any like communities online that people can join? Because sometimes people feel
Yeah.
lonely where they're
Yeah.
from.
Yes. Okay. So, Okay, I have a couple different things to say. First of all, my friend just started a mutual aid group on Twitter. She also has a website. She's developing it. It's an online, decentralized mutual aid platform. She's trying to connect with and work with mutual aid groups from all across the country so that everybody can coordinate. But it's called Myco Mutual. You can follow her on Twitter. And it's an excellent idea. She is going to need some help with figuring it out. And I mean, just finding the right direction and all of that stuff, because it's an overwhelming task, but she is doing amazing work on that. Also, something that I have done personally, and this is like something you can do more locally. I started a group in my local community, and we called it Pay It Forward. It was just, like a whatever. But it started around a Christmas time, because my kids had like a shit ton of toys. And I'm like, hey, if anybody needs, seriously gently used toys for their kids for Christmas, whatever, let me know. And then that birthed like this whole huge group. I ran it for 5 years and then I had to take a break because it was just becoming overwhelming. But it's just like within your own community, start like a mutual aid group. And then people would DM me and say, hey, I need help with my, gas bill or whatever. And then I would put out a call to the group. People would donate, and then we would go, like I would go personally and pay that person's gas bill. So then you know where the money's going, all of those things. So that's something you can do in your own communities for sure. But then also, like, social media, as toxic as it can be, is also a really good place to find like-minded groups of people. Like I'm in a couple, my outsiders, hi guys, a couple DM groups that, we hold each other down. And, it's a place where we can vent and complain and brag and congratulate each other and all of those things. So yeah, and find yourself an activist group, like, find a cause that you really are dedicated to and passionate about, and then go find, if you can, a local group that's doing work on that issue and jump in. I mean, those people, if you can find yourself a good activist group, it's like family. So, I mean, that's what I do.
Yeah. And I would just add to that if you have any inclination toward starting a show or a podcast, if you feel like you have something to contribute to
do it.
Conversation, absolutely do it. And
do it.
And don't be afraid to reach out to people you like to have on, or people you respect.
I'm guilty of that.
We all are, but because you'll be pleasantly surprised how many of them are willing
they want to reach as many ears as they can, so they'll be very happy to come on.
Exactly. And I think another important strategy is something that Nico House brought up when we interviewed him, is that we need to actually form a comradeship, follow each other, go on each other's shows, retweet, and just build the network.
Each other up, yeah.
Yeah, build the network that way. And look, if you're putting out good content, people are going to pay attention. You don't have to have a fancy studio or be some kind of, like, put on some kind of personality. Just whatever the issue is that you feel like is important and needs to be addressed, just talk about it. Even if it's just you talking about it, like, your opinion matters. And I think the more people do that, and the more we connect with each other and represent each other, like, not like, I'm saying, like, represent in like the old school hip hop way, like yeah. Franco represent.
But yeah, just hold each other down. Like, just take care, like, lift each other up, take care of each other, promote each other, cheer each other on. My big thing, obviously, is free speech, free press, and supporting independent media. So I try to share as much amazing independent media as I can. And I try to, share Patreon pages of up and coming independent journalists, and, all of that stuff. Like, you can do those kinds of, those things are free to do. Even if you yourself can't donate to somebody's Patreon or whatever, you just sharing their work is hugely beneficial, and it helps get, messages out. And that's just, from the independent media side. side just because that's what I'm into. But even if if you just have like an amazing Twitter mutual who has amazing takes, share that, just share their shit constantly, and encourage people to follow them. And the more that we can connect with each other and build these relationships and coalitions, and bounce ideas off of each other and all of those things, that only makes us stronger. And I know that social media, again, it can be a toxic place, and it can be a place where it's hard to accomplish anything. But I mean, if you can find some of the right people, I mean, there are people, I genuinely consider to be my friends. I've never met them in person, but they're like family to me at this point. And for all of the shit that goes on Twitter, there are bright spots, and there are good things that happen on there, and relationships that develop. So I mean, yeah, it's definitely it's a tool to be used for sure.
You'll be surprised how many people will have your back, like online. Yeah. And as far as like sharing information, like for people, if you want to get more informed, there are channels that have like their own Discord. I know Richard Medhurst has his own. The Last American Vagabond has his. I have my Discord too. And if one of my mods wanted to share my Discord link for everybody, I also have it like on the description. But for facility's sake, if you can you share like my Discord link, like for the new subscribers to join? We have a fun community. Like we have a lot of jokes. We share a lot of like great YouTube channels and stuff. Because one thing is that the audience, they are watching all these different channels. And so they are able to determine like what's best out of like these different channels. Like, okay, this channel is really good on civil liberties, but they're a little slacking when it comes to like socialism or something. And then this channel right here is really good on foreign policy, or this channel is really good at calling out the mainstream media. Like Jimmy Dore's channel is really good at doing that. So the audience is really smart, like when it comes to these political channels. And I know you guys can attest to that, Misty and Jesse. Steve also can attest to that. He always says that he has the best chat. So Discords are fantastic places to share information.
Yeah.
And just to add to that, I think it's also important to get outside of social media and talk to people face to face, especially people who don't agree with you. And I'm not saying to start arguments or debates, but I just want to give an anecdote, and maybe it's, maybe I'm just lucky because it's my parents, but my parents are both conservative. They both voted for Donald Trump in 2016. And 4 years ago, when I would bring up Julian Assange, they would just parrot back to me all the usual debunked accusations. He's a rapist, and he's
a hacker, a thief,
throwing the shit at the wall, just all this nonsense. And it's not like I kept pressing them, but I would like periodically present new information to them. And fast forward to today, and they completely get it. Even as Trump voters, they voted for Trump again in this election, but they are completely on the side of Julian Assange's freedom. And we still differ on a lot of other issues. I fucking hate that word. But I get like people's reservation to talk to people they don't agree with, because there's always that huge risk of it getting confrontational. But if you can sort of navigate it in just a composed way and just present the facts and not try to like push it in people's face, but just really try to like cultivate and continue a discussion about something, especially with the people who don't, who aren't in your camp. I think it's really important to do, because you can change minds. And look, it's like just 2 more people who support Assange, but that's better than 2 less people supporting Assange.
And then imagine if they go and inform, 1 more person each, or 2 more people each, or, that's how you build support. That's how everything, it always starts small. And then it's people talking to each other and people having conversations, and, an exchange of ideas, and then coming to, a realization. And then, and I've had those same experiences, where somebody has I've met people who have never even heard of Julian Assange, and, you can get them to realize what's going on. I've had people who literally hated him, who have come around, and they're not, I wouldn't say that the person I'm thinking of, I wouldn't say that person is now like a full-on Julian Assange supporter, activist, whatever. But this person is more sympathetic now to what's happening, and they're open now to what I've been saying. And, and those conversations are going to be hard and messy. And, that's the nature of the beast. But I don't know how anybody ever expects to get anywhere if we don't talk to each other. You have to meet people where they're at, have an exchange of ideas, try to find common ground, and, handle your differences and problems like grown-ups. It seems like such a simple thing, but here we are.
And it's obviously a lot harder now to interact face-to-face with COVID-19, but again, there is Twitter, which, despite all of its horrendous flaws, is still a very good tool for networking and building networks of people who are, are working for the same things that you're working toward. And
while it's harder to change minds on Twitter, it can be done. I have done it personally. It can absolutely be done. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And sometimes your mind might be changed. Like, I've had somebody who shared a lot of scientific sources on like certain issues when it comes to like ecology or like nuclear energy or what, or something like that. And I read like the evidence, like stuff that I've overlooked before. And then I come around to it and I realize, I'm like, okay, like I used to be more afraid of nuclear energy, but maybe this is something that we should be talked about more. But yeah, like discussing online is really important. Before we close off, I do want to bring up something because it is in the title, and we were talking about Julian Assange.
Hey, Franco, can I just add something to what we were just saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, though it's still important to be adversarial toward people like Anna Kasparian, who are grifters and propagandists, and not give them any leeway or put any niceties on them. I think that they are harmful people and they deserve to be called out. And if they feel bad about it, well, that's their problem. But
and it's more so for the audience, so that they know that they're being misguided.
To be clear, I don't think Jesse is saying go harass her, but when she puts something out that's crap, call her out on it.
Just
you don't
lay
have
the
to
facts.
harass her. Yeah, just put her back in her, put her, do you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't have to go and stalk her mentions or whatever. But if she says something that is obvious bullshit, call her out. Like, we have to stop doing that whole civility. Let's not eat our own nonsense.
It's not eating your own to lay the facts down. Eating your own would be smearing them or
ignoring the facts because it might make Anna Kasparian mad. No, that's not how that works.
Yeah, I do want to get your thoughts on the recent false alarm that we got earlier today on Twitter by Pastor Burns, right? That's his name.
That dude's such a douche canoe. Listen, if you're addressing an issue as critical as that and you don't double and triple check at the validity of what you're about to put out into the world, you are a turd. That's just ridiculous. Honestly, I saw, and at first I'm like, oh my God, because that's what I do. And so I was like, holy shit. But I mean, it was 30 seconds in when I'm like, this is obviously crap. But it did give us an amazing opportunity. Julian Assange has been trending on Twitter all day long. And I'm telling you, we have had organized tweet storms where we can't get that to happen.
Although his hashtag hasn't been coming up.
No, but that's Twitter fuckery that happens all the time. I'm telling you, there will be hundreds of thousands of "We Are All Assange" tweets, and it does not show up anywhere. So that's nothing new. But it gave us an opportunity today to get an incredible amount of visibility for the fight to keep Julian Assange from being extradited. So while that guy sucks, And I, hope that he gets a terrible case of hemorrhoids, and the last case of hemorrhoid cream is like buried in an Amazon warehouse somewhere, and he has to go find it because what he did was shitty. But at the same token, it was an amazing gift because we were able to exploit that and get a lot of movement in terms of just getting the word out there. I mean, it was a huge push. Like, we haven't had that big of a social media day in a very long time. So to me, I think it was, that I'll take that and look at the positive side of it. I would still love for Donald Trump to pardon Julian Assange. It's a long shot. Long shot, but it is the only shot we probably have because Joe Biden will not do anything to save him. And so if I have to reach out to Donald Trump and stroke his ego and appeal to his sense of petty, I'll do that. And I hope that it works. I have no shame whatsoever. I will absolutely do that. I will personally organize a parade in his honor if he pardons Julian Assange. Like, if that's what he wants, if that's what it takes. I know he likes parades, man. I will get you a parade. We'll do that. Let's do it.
Yeah. I tweeted at him earlier, go out with a bang and pardon
everybody should, please.
Edward Snowden.
And tag MAGA too, and have them push Donald Trump to do it.
Yes, I tweeted at MAGA. I tweet at MAGA all the time. Lefties get mad at me because I reach out to MAGA, and I'm like, I don't give a shit about your.
We're reaching out to them so that they can do something good.
I don't care if it means that we're going to save Julian Assange's life and potentially the future of press freedom. I don't care who they are. I really don't. And how do you expect to ever get anything done if you're that particular about who you work with? Like, if you are for Julian Assange, then you're on my team for that issue. We can disagree on everything else, but for that issue, we can work together, and let's work to make that happen. It's just, I don't understand that at all. But yeah, we had an amazing day of visibility. I hope Donald Trump actually does pardon Julian Assange and Ed Snowden and Reality Winner and every other, Leonard Pelletier, all of the political prisoners. Let them all out, dude. Go out with a bang. Rose McGowan said, be punk as fuck. Do it, Donald Trump. It would be punk as fuck. Go out with a bang.
We got Sundi Atsakoli. We should let Asada Shakur come back to the U.S. and be part of. There are so many political prisoners.
Do them all, but let's do Julian Assange first, because seriously, y'all, he's stuck in a COVID-ridden supermax prison. He's a journalist with no violent history at all whatsoever. He hasn't. The fact that he's even in prison right now is a crime against humanity. It genuinely is, and it's terrifying what is being allowed to happen to this man.
Yeah. It's absolutely criminal. And I think the final decision, or one of the final decisions, they keep jumping through these hoops and adding more layers to it, but it's supposed to come down on January 4th, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
So that's...
Come to DC. Everybody come to DC. Action for Assange will be in DC January 3rd and 4th, causing some ruckus. So come ruckus with us.
I'm already here.
Yeah.
Okay, come join us then. Yeah, come join us.
All right, Misty and Jesse, thank you guys so much. This was very therapeutic for me, and I think the audience can say the same thing. And it's great to feel like we're not alone. You guys want to give a final shout out where people can find you before we close off?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, go ahead, Jesse.
Okay. So Misty and I co-host a podcast / show called Facts on the Ground. You can find us on Twitter at FOTG Podcast. And there's a link to our YouTube channel there. And you can find me on Twitter, my rants, if you're so interested, at Jesse Zerwell. That's JESSE, and then ZURAWELL. And Misty, do you want to?
Yeah, you can just find me on Twitter at Sarcasm Stardust, and like I said earlier, I tweet too much, so come through and check out my madness.
All right, people, don't forget to like and share this video. Also share the videos that Facts on the Ground puts up, and don't forget to stay informed and stay conscious. Take care, everyone. I love you guys.
Thank you.